to August's board meeting for TogetherTec, the project of projects. Gus.
It's like she froze.
Yeah. Oh, I'm frozen. I have a weird. Someone else want the intro.
Of course, now I've forgotten how you normally do it, but like you just said, we did here TogetherTec and Project of Projects, and we don't have a plan for this board meeting, so we're just going to talk through what we find interesting and kind of what's been going on. So I can talk. We did have in the Facebook group. We had Brandon Norgard with a group, another kind of group of groups. They have a LinkedIn group. But it seems like they're focusing mostly on people that are working on better social media, combating the negative effects of social media. I even made a call, alerted, forgotten his name, but he has the app Ruva.
Daniel?
Yeah. So I let him know, but I haven't heard that he's gotten in touch with him because he might find that interesting. But yeah, I attended one of their meetings, and they have their own app, and like 4 or 5 other people already have apps in there that they're all kind of working on. Some people are ideas, some people have physical apps already built, prototypes, and they're going to do a lot of what we've talked about, where you you work on you play with each other's prototypes, you get feedback and answer questions. It's a support group, so it's kind of exactly TogetherTec, except a slightly more focused scope rather than any game view project. It's kind of the way I'd
okay. So like a bit of what we've been talking about with what I've been referring to as the co-opetition councils, where it's sort of like like you and I and Matoush and people like sort of having a regular meetup about these sense-making projects and about the sort of stuff that we're solving. Yeah, that's cool. But like in their case, it sounds like they formed a group around these social media alternatives and trying to do it that way. That's interesting.
Yeah, seems to be. Yeah.
He also contacted me a couple weeks ago or a week ago before he did the post on Facebook. I don't know if I was the most encouraging, because I was like, yeah, what I've said before here, unless that's actually somebody's problem that they feel a need to solve, as opposed to it just being the foundation so that we can start solving problems, we just keep reinventing the wheel again and again and again. And there was that person who contacted us a little bit ago who it did seem to be the problem they wanted to solve. And then with Trove and Catalyst, it's further along. So it seems to be something that is, and Vincent and you were involved in it. And it's like, it's getting somewhere. And so it's hard because like there is this chicken and egg, we need these things, and yet if they're not something that is somebody's burning passion to solve, it's just like, oh, another list of projects and another list of projects and a new social media app and it's like, it's not the same as, does this meet our needs? But if they're doing around social media, we need them all though. So even though like we're still meeting, who knows if we're doing anything there, somebody will do something eventually and we will jump on board. But
yeah, I guess it fits into that kind of let 1,000 flowers bloom and see which one takes over, is kind of the way it ends up being, unfortunately. Yeah, so kind of same old problem that we've been struggling with. You have a good idea, you reach out, you find other people, they have their own good ideas, and none of them are overlapping quite enough for one person to drop everything and work, and truly become. Although I guess I know, like, I know several projects that have 2 people in it. So, they've obviously come together. So the Ysaurus, there's 2 guys on that are pretty much putting in all their time. So, yeah.
We clearly need a project of projects for projects of projects.
Right.
That's the problem. We weren't quite meta enough. We had to get meta on the meta.
Yeah.
So does anyone want to give a little update on, and I did invite Brandon to come on this. I probably should have tagged him on the thing, on the actual meeting, but I haven't been on Facebook. I didn't. But does anyone want to kind of give an update on what they're doing?
I can do that.
Yeah, it'd be good to hear what you've been up to.
Well, there's basically just the two, right? Solution raising. Eric and I started doing a live on Twitch, and it didn't turn into anything like I expected it to, as usual. He invited some people, and it ended up that we were gonna. Well, anyway, it would be a long story to go through what we went through, but now we're looking at kind of doing just Eric and I on Mondays, figuring out whether a conversation that we both enjoy having that can either be a solution raising or basically a project raising. And with his connections and my connections, having like a third person come on and tell us about their project, and we can talk about it for the hour, like a project raising or solution raising where somebody has an expert topic that they care about that we can then do a solution raising on together, which, hey, we can give people projects. Here you go. Now we'll pass it off to the third party. But just finding a way to bring more Game B awareness, even though not calling it Game B, on things like Twitch and TikTok. And I've started a TikTok account and I'm really enjoying it, even though I have very few followers. I'm sure if anything goes viral, I'll jump off of that in a hurry because it scares me. And so solution raising is just in that I love it, but it's hard to get people to come to it. And I need that admin role or that executive functioning role. And so it's still on the back burner. For peer coaching, my partner, the person I've been doing it with, is in the process of moving from Australia to Portugal. So it's been with the current atmosphere in Australia and everything else, it's been on the back burner for a while. So we're going to have a drop-in session every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, starting in September. And then so instead of it being a 6-week course, it's going to be drop-in constantly. And it's going to concentrate on just the 4 areas of relationships: time, resource, and health. I'm like, I know I forgot what I usually say them in orders. They come properly. And so then once someone's attended they can go on and become a co-host. And so we're just going to open up the time slots and have people keep dropping in. And then when they want to, when they feel, they never have to find out about WeWeave if they're never curious about it, they can just come and peer coaching indefinitely, or they can come and start finding out, well, how do we get to that 10,000 people, and having solution raisings on those 4 in different time periods, and having the info session and invite to WeWeave when appropriate, but basically just starting that peer coaching and having it be ongoing so that we don't have to keep starting 6-week courses and people can attend and then invite people back to that same session the next week once they've attended even one. So theoretically, we could double every week, but I don't see us doing that, but we could. And that's my update.
Awesome. So, Adriel, have you been doing anything on your projects?
Yeah, I've been actually sort of building out the project in Jira. I've been trying to learn that for work, and so I've been sort of double dipping and also building out the project plan and maybe refining it a bit. Forgetting the name of the site now, but there was a kind of a government grant program that I sort of just missed the window on a couple of months ago. And I think I submitted something a day late, and all the forms had changed. And so the goal is to sort of have that ready for the next time, and then I might be able to get some of the development work done for free if it's not already sort of underway. And so either way, I need those specs. So I've been working on that. How about you, Benny?
So I think I mentioned this last time. I have someone working about 20 hours a month for me doing. She's doing everything. So she is a journalist. She also does community stuff and writes blog posts and stuff like that, and branding. So we're just going through everything, and every time we're like, oh, okay, let's do a blog post or let's do this, then it's kind of like, okay, so who is Goaliebot? So we're finding that we're still kind of exploring Goaliebot's personality and who the personas are that Goaliebot's talking to. So it's been very fruitful in doing that, and then she's given a lot of feedback on the web site and features. So I did just add, and Goaliebot, I added a search feature. Actually, it's not turned on yet, but we were testing it because, you get in there and there's like the 7 top claims. But if you're coming in thinking, oh, what about ivermectin? You would have to drill down into alternatives, and then you have to go past the essential oils and go to the ivermectin. So finding it'd just be easier to find it if you had search. Now we actually haven't put ivermectin in there, which is a shame because it's been in the news very big, but I haven't had time to really manage that, and I have a kind of a journalist person, another person who's a little bit not quite as skilled, not quite as good as at English, but she's really good at research. But I haven't been really good at tasking and organizing her work, so we haven't got it in. There was a group that came on called Better Skeptics. They offered up to $10,000 in prizes for people that would prove statements from Brett Weinstein false about the ivermectin thing. So it'd be $100 a statement. And they're just about to come out with their results of that. So on Twitter, you'd say, okay, I counteract this. They would have it's really well done, and I think in a lot of ways, 3 independent people that aren't part of Better Spec. I mean, they were brought on as kind of judges, and then the judges would come in, and then there'd be a public review of the judges thing, and then so hopefully they'll be coming out this next week with their analysis. We didn't get anything in there because we're too busy focused on other stuff, but 2 things. One, they plan on doing that again. I don't know if they're going to keep throwing money at it, because I think they said it was great to get the word out. So I actually asked him. He's been doing Twitter fleets. Is that the one where you talk? Their Clubhouse competitor. Anyway, so I asked him, how did the funding go? Would you recommend it? He said, well, it got a lot of attention, but most of the people who did it really ended up doing it didn't really care about the money. And for us, it's going to cost us a lot more than $100 to even if it's just like, oh, this claim is wrong and here's a piece of evidence. You kind of want to do more research than one piece of evidence. But he said he'd still probably suggest it for the first 2 to get your name out there. So that was fascinating. So I might do that at some point in the future. And then I started a little side project. I've been wondering whether you can get people to crowdsource open source software. So like a whole bunch of people say they want this tool. Would people pay for it? So I put up a GoFundMe for $500 for some people in another group in Open Global Mind said they wanted a way to format Zoom chats because they're really hard to read. It's there's a timestamp and a name and then the chat. So I am this junior dev. It's a friend of a friend that she wanted a project. So I'm kind of coaching her through it. And we got one $50 donation. So all that money is going to go to the junior dev. But I don't know. I'm thinking now what I'll do is I'll put it up and we'll make it to where it'll run once per day and have a little countdown clock until it's paid for. And if you donate to the thing, then you get the private link to have unlimited runs until enough people pay for it, and then it's all fully open source. That's kind of the idea. Just to see what it takes.
What you mean by a run? I don't know what you.
Oh, so you would be able to take a Zoom chat that you downloaded, like ours here. No, this isn't Zoom, but paste it in and it'll format it really nice for you.
Got it. So once you've paid, then you could do that with. You get to have that once per day.
Well, once you pay, you can do it unlimited, but until then, one person can do it once per day. So if no one's using it, then you can go in there anytime and use it, but that's used up for the day. And then, just so that some people can try it. So we'll see. Or I might have it open for a week and then shut it down. I haven't decided. Just some way so people can see it's there, see it really works, see that's really valuable. And then, if I can get the extra $450, which actually it's costing way more than $500 to produce this. So we've spent 30 hours on it, and my bill rate is $100 an hour. So
a little bit,
a little over.
Less.
Now she's of course less because she's a junior dev, but anyway, it's just an experiment to see how it works and to see you do have to do marketing for crowdsourced funding. And of course, I didn't do a lot of that, but we'll see. So hopefully I'll have an update in a month or so about the project, or when we come back on, I'll kind of say, it should be out in live in some form or fashion, or in trial version, and then we'll see if we get any more donations. Yeah, and then the podcast that Adriel and I are kind of working on, that Adriel skipped on Monday. It is going okay. We did a recording. I'm trying to do a high quality edit, but I ran out of time. I had a paying client actually I have 2 paying clients this week, so I've been too busy to do anything about it. And we're going to do another one on Monday, but I don't think we've chosen a topic. And just for review, the concept of this podcast is winning arguments where everyone wins. And so we take a tweet or some sort of comment, and then some responses to that comment, and we kind of talk about how those could be said in a way that's less divisive and more effective for kind of everyone's benefit. And so if you're interested in learning about rhetoric or how to say things effectively, or if you just want to see, people kind of, make suggestions to learn how to win arguments, but in a more omni-win way. So I had to explain what omni-win meant to those guys. And they were still kind of like, I don't think that's possible. I'm like, well, yeah, that's a good goal. let's shoot for, for being more omni-win. So that was interesting. Yeah. So those are the projects that I'm working on. Too much stuff to do.
Cool. I was wondering about the Zoom thing. I had seen sort of some posts that you had made, and I saw Zoom chats, and I was like, I wonder what that's about.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Basically, it's just a text box. You paste it in,
right,
you hit it, and it's a nice, pretty format.
Nice.
What is the main competitor right now? So for that subscribes Zoom chats, I can't remember what it's called. Otter.io. Is that what I'm thinking of?
Well, so Otter, I think, does transcripts.
Yeah, I think Otter actually uses the audio, I believe. Like it actually.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Then what are you doing? Yours is.
So if you're just typing in chats in the message box, it'll just kind of reformat those, because the file format and there might be a plugin that kind of gives you. I don't know if there is or isn't. I didn't even look, because I just knew some people needed it, and they would want. It's enough that they might donate, but not enough that they would pay for. Of course, it could be a free plugin for all I know. Yeah, I didn't really do much research, because it's more like there was a handful of people that wanted it, so I was gonna, and kind of hinted that they'd pay for it. So I thought, well, it's a good experiment. And then it'd be a free thing out there, and eventually we could put it in a plugin if people really wanted it and wanted to pay for that feature. Yeah, there might be something out there that kind of does it. But yeah, Otter takes the audio and does it. And Zoom has a built-in one for audio as well. And there's a possibility that we could use this same kind of infrastructure to do that on the audio. I don't know how good their audio, their transcription, I don't know how well that's formatted or not. If it's just the same and it's just as ugly, then we could probably easily adapt this to do that as well. But I thought if it's for people that'd be like to have something just online that they could just paste it into.
Yeah, that I think it would actually be interesting to kind of have a combination of both, because now Otter I don't think is able to do the even nicer version of the audio transcription, where it not only can transcribe the audio, but it knows which of the participants is talking, and it's actually able to say like, oh, Bentley is saying this, Adriel is saying this, and it's trying to transcribe who's saying what. If you could actually overlay that at the same time as the chat, so you could sort of have both your voice chat and your text chat in the same timeline.
Yeah, there are a couple of challenges with that. It turns out that the chat, there is so it does a date and time of the person that saves the chat, so it's in their time zone, and then it starts at the first chat. So, and there's no note in there on when the recording starts.
Right. Yeah. I gotcha.
So we are thinking about having it to where it'll format it as YouTube timestamps, but then you could type in an adjustment to say, oh, we started recording, a minute before the first chat message. And if people get in the habit of doing a chat message, starting recording right when they start recording, then they could line them up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a way that you could do it, it would obviously be probably a hell of a lot more work, is a lot of the tools I've used to have a bot that joins the meeting. And then, you can actually say, oh, at this time, we received that chat from such and such a person. And that's also the only way I've seen it done where it knows who's talking for the audio.
Yeah, I mean, just plain audio, you should at least be able to know speaker 1, speaker 2. And then you could assign the names later. So I'd be surprised.
Is that just based on like sort of vocal recognition?
Recognizing that the voices are different, and then
Right.
the voice stays the same. The voice recognition software should be up to doing that these days.
Okay, cool.
Actually, it now takes only about 10 seconds of recorded speech for a robot or a computer to simulate your voice. It doesn't sound like perfect, but it's recognizably you.
Right.
That's how good the AI has gotten in the last several months or several years.
Fakes, our world's getting more and more interesting. Seems weird that Zoom wouldn't have, like, we all have our little names at the bottom, that it wouldn't know, and then it knows when you have the mic, right? Because it has the little thing around you, that if it was actually integrated with Zoom and Zoom wanted it to be integrated, that it would actually, even instead of just speaker 1, speaker 2, would actually say Jubilee or Angel Briscoe or Bentley Davis.
That's what the bots do, right? A bot joins your meeting, so it's actually like a participant as that, and then it's able to see who's talking, see the box that lights up. It can probably see the chats, but you do see that extra face there that isn't a person, right? It's just like usually a black box and some sort of a picture, hopefully, that indicates it's being recorded. And then that's because I've seen just transcription tools, and I think probably the best that they could end up doing is what Bentley's talking about, where it says, hey, we think there's 3 different voices in this this video. So, if you can say who they are, then we can transcribe it. But otherwise, not sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that feature is going to pop up pretty soon, because it's not too hard to do. I was just going to search through the marketplace and see what they have right now. To do either that or just to put it as a plugin, probably would have to get more than $500 of donations. People would have to actually want it. We'll see. It's an experiment. Probably fail.
Yeah,
learn something from it.
I do love even just the concept of experimenting with ways to crowdfund, because that's direly needed.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be nice to be able to have an easy way that it's funny. I'm on the marketplace and I just checked the checkbox. Says works with Zoom chat, and it's empty. But they have the category, but there's no one has put anything in there. That I find that surprising. Maybe they just don't categorize it properly.
Yeah, because a lot of apps will just check off all the boxes for things that even are like remotely related.
Yeah, or maybe no one cares about the chat.
Maybe.
In the groups that I'm using, they actually use either Mattermost or HackMD because the chats are so ephemeral that you want to save them between meetings, like recurring meetings like that, or Google Docs, right? So most people don't really use the chat, but a couple people where you have like people in a room and you want to send them a document afterwards, and it's not people so like the mediators or something, so you don't want to have to train everyone on a new tool.
Right.
They're the type of people that want to use it.
Is there a plugin for Zoom that because this seems to be something that comes up regularly in larger Zoom meetings, for there to be a contact list that people can opt into or opt out of to be able to contact each other outside of that? Because it seems like some people link to a Google Doc or a spreadsheet. Some people, it's like such an awkward thing that it's like opt in, opt out. People want to get in touch with each other as opposed to just, hey, if you want to get in touch, this one's an opt out one or this one's an opt in one. Go put your information on there, right? If they already have your information, it's already on there. Take it off if you want, or if you want everyone to be able to contact you, opt into it with the relevant whatever the.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice little feature. I haven't even seen, and I haven't even researched to see what you can do in Zoom apps yet. I'm looking for that, but yeah.
I know somebody at work requested access to install one of these Zoom apps, but that's about as much as I know.
Yeah. So I guess that search contact in the Zoom apps marketplace. Approved contact and constant contact notifications. And I don't even know how much of a vetting I guess they do quite a bit of vetting on these apps.
Well,
Yeah, so I don't see anything that fits that right now, Jubilee, but that was just a quick search. Go ahead, Adriel.
I was just going to say, one would hope that they would have some sort of a vetting process.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, yeah, I don't know how. I guess I need to take a look at their dev store. I'm their developer side and see. And also see if you can sideload an app without going through their store and just say, I have this. Anyways, I shouldn't spend the meeting time Googling, but.
There were very important things to discuss, Bentley.
Yes.
One of the things is that like this time is theoretically our board meeting, but we don't really have anything to board meet.
Yeah.
About. So this basically has just become our 3 project roundtables, right? Where we update on our project to make it more evident that that is the case, and therefore anyone can come be part of it, because we're still calling it board meeting, whereas before, you know what I mean? Like maybe we stop calling it board meeting, we just call it roundtable. Come pop in. It's only once a month, so people know it's once a month, and therefore you're not hearing about people's project every week. It's just once a month, and if you want to come and update us, great. And then we'll spend the time Googling about your project for the hour as opposed to our updated one.
Yeah, I think yeah. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, I just think it makes sense, and we can revisit the concept of a board meeting if we actually figure out things that we want to do with TogetherTec.
Yeah, so kind of renaming it a bit and rebranding it a bit. I think that'd be good to make it more open, or obvious that it's open. It's always been open.
Yeah.
It was when we were first starting. It was a little awkward to have people come. Like when we were like, "It's a board meeting," people it was their first time, but we are just doing project roundtables. That is exactly what we're doing. So that it makes absolute sense for someone to just come in and be part of it if they so
I guess, do we just then want to use the same template that we used for the old project roundtables?
Sure.
Like with the same naming and everything?
Sure.
Yeah, we used to call it a Saturday roundtable, so that will still work. Saturday roundtable and the date where we share our projects and help one another move forward. Perfect. So we'll start using that one going forward. And do we still just want to do it once per month? Still in the same spot?
I think so.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Got that that captured.
Yeah, I'm just reading they have a pretty thick review process, but I can't really tell if the Zoom app's intention is like this is supposed to be for like large corporations that have integrations, or if it's like more of an open, like is it Android marketplace and not even like iPhone, but more like a more closed marketplace where it's just for like big players and.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I know. What was the tool that we were using? There's some sort of a whiteboard tool that we were using outside of Zoom and started to get like alerts being like, we have a Zoom app now. And we should try it.
Yeah. So I don't know the size that they expect for this. You could sideload apps, but you have to do it one per kind of account organization.
Right.
Anyways, I don't know. I don't know that it's enough for me to play around with a quick website to where you could just cut and paste was a fairly low lift, or so I thought. I mean, I've only spent like 8 hours on it, so. But the junior dev it's a really good learning experience for her.
Cool.
Sounds good. It sounds like that would be a fun, and not that anyone needs more projects in this group, but like putting junior, basically what Dan was doing with the college, right? That he was part of, and they were working with this app, having like not project raising, sorry, solution raising, and then being able to pass it off to someone, or having like junior developers working on an actual project that's needed. One way or the other, right? They either come up with it and you find other people to help you brainstorm what we do, or the other way around. Yeah. Solution raising. Hey, what's the little thing that you can do that would be around $500, which clearly nothing is around $500.
Right.
Does anyone know if Zoom has, because this is my homework for peer coaching, you guys already know, I don't, when you enter from the waiting room, and I know a lot of times when I accidentally log out of Zoom, my Zoom account will be like, oh, the host has to start the meeting. But once the meeting's actually been started, if there's a way to give a kind message of like, sorry, you're too late to join now, like 5 minutes after the hour, it's in progress and you're not invited to join because you came too late.
Yeah, even if you could just customize that message, but
yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at like the individual meeting settings and seeing if there's a way to like customize the lock screen, because I think you would just sort of have the lobby and then not let people in. I'm not sure if there's a way to actually just say don't even have a lobby. Like I won't be letting anyone in. I want to see the message. Just give them this nice no and don't let them. I'm also not sure how that would work. Like if somebody had issues and had to reconnect, if that would then mean that somebody who was on time and tried to reconnect, if that would then prevent them from.
Good point, and we did not think about that yet. Because we're in the pre of like, we want to make sure people aren't coming in half an hour after the start time thinking they can just come for the last 10 minutes. It's like, no, if you're not.
Yeah, I wonder if there was just like if you had a unique URL that you would only give if the person registered or clicked a certain button or did something in that time period, and then that's the page that you could change. Where if you click the link, say, "So sorry, you're too late to get the link," try again next time. You can have a link to register and all that stuff, but then if you were on time, you would have the link, and even if you had to leave and rejoin, you'd still be able to use it.
So in the waiting room, I don't know what level you have to buy for this, but you can customize the logo and description. So you could just put in there after, you could just say, and if you're arriving 5 minutes after the start, we won't be letting anyone else in. Or you could probably customize it during the meeting, but I don't know if those things don't always update immediately.
I think that works, because if it's customized and then if you're joining 5 minutes after, and if you leave and come back, clearly we're letting you in. It's just we will see, yes, this person's waiting. If they just drop, we'll be letting you back.
Now it will always say, please wait, the meeting host will let you in soon across the top, and then there's a message. So my guess is a lot of people won't read the second message, but you can only do what you can.
Very true.
To not know whether or not, like, sometimes there's a meeting and there's cricket, so you just leave 5 minutes after, right? So there actually isn't a meeting, it's not happening, and you left, versus no, we are here, we're having the meeting, you're just not invited because you came 5 minutes late, but next week feel free to come on time and get in, right? Or no. And also co-host wise, if it's my co-host and they're 5 minutes late, I probably want them in.
So that's kind of where you can customize it, where it says logo and then your meeting topic. So you could say, and if you've arrived.
Oh, it does have a pencil next to the generic message too. Please wait, the meeting also will let you in too.
Ooh, fancy. Yeah, I took this
change
off
that to say, too late, loser. And then...
yeah, so maybe you can. I didn't even notice that.
It's actually for peer coaching.
Yeah.
Well, accepting, right. Like you are where you are. It's like, you suck. You do better as a human being. You're late.
I like that. I get a little kick in the butt. Okay. Yeah, so I'd check that out and see if any of those customizations will work. Because if you could change that, you could just say, if you've arrived before 5 minutes after the start, we'll try and let you in.
Because also, like, we'll give it a little wiggle room, right? Like, it's 5 minutes after, and if it's 6 or 7 minutes after, maybe, depending on how much into it we are. But if it's 20 minutes after, absolutely not. Telling people they have to arrive on time, therefore giving them a 5-minute leeway, really a 6 or 7 minute leeway, and then no. Once everyone's
supposed to let them know that. I'm gonna see if I have access to edit my meetings to do that. I don't know where that is. Maybe that's on the website. Anyways.
That too. Like, I have one link for my entire Zoom account, I believe. I think I can make a new one, but I want it constantly open. Like, I want them to use the same link every time so I don't have to send it out to people. And because we want people to invite them for next week, that they can also send it out to people with, like, we worked on the invitation. And
yeah, but I mean, if you just want a static link, theoretically that link could be a web page that would, like show you the schedule, allow you to register. If you show up on the right time period, you click a button and it shows you the link on that page. And you got a lot more control over, because you might end up with, like, if you've got multiple rooms, then you can't have the same URL, because you could have, if there's 100 meetings a week, there's going to be some that overlap, right? One starts at 1 to 2 and one's 1:30 to 2:30. There's half an hour where you have two different groups going at the same time, so you wouldn't be able to have the same rooms.
I just assumed I couldn't do that. I just assumed I couldn't have overlapping meetings. I know you can break off into rooms.
Yeah,
that's
which, I mean, when you just have one meeting, it's fine. I'm more talking long term.
Right. No, but long term, that's where, like, in my head, it was, if this one starts at noon, the next one can't start till 1:30 because they're around 90 minutes, maybe even a 2-hour time slot. But I wasn't aware you could actually do the same Zoom account. I was already using it 24/7 in my head for all the time slots, not doubling on the 24/7.
Right. Yeah. Which, what I'm talking about might require, a paid account. I'm not sure. I
have a paid account. I mean, otherwise we'd be kicked out.
Then you definitely can, because I mean, you've got your different users, and you can, like, create rooms for meetings where, like, you actually say it's for this meeting. It starts, at 1 to 2. And if you try to join too early, they're like, this meeting hasn't started yet.
I clearly should do a Zoom 101 YouTube video, meaning watch one, not create one.
Right.
Get the basics of what I'm not getting out of my Zoom account. It's funny, my Wednesday call with the Game B people is, I think, 4 out of the 5 of us, I think 4 of us have Zoom accounts, including Eric now, but we use Eric's free account because we like getting kicked out after 40 minutes, because then we know to come back 3 times.
Right.
we could switch and have, like, a 2-hour time slot, but no.
That's funny. I like that. Like, intentionally taking advantage of the limitation of the free product, even though you're all paying for it.
Yeah.
That feature looks like it's on there. They have kind of like a school version, so that may not be available in the regular stuff.
Which once we get a bunch of time slots, it will probably have some donations and some other. Like, once we're at 100 time slots, you could do that with one Zoom account, but having that many people have the host key and people having their own slot as well. Plus, I use it for solution raising. That is actually what it's used for.
Right.
Cool. Anything else going on we want to discuss?
I don't think so.
I think we solved everything, right?
Yeah.
Problem
solved.
It's done.
Yeah. Game B is fully in place. Game A is done. It's on its, its last legs. I give it a week or 2 tops.
If we don't have anything else to discuss, because we have, we were talking about Zoom, and there's the physics project that we all know I am highly critical of, but that was one of the things Dan was like, you should use it for your meetings. It's like, well, I don't need, like, there's 3 of us here, which is my bigger meeting. There's 5 of us on Wednesday. We have no need to have a gauge of how people are feeling within the meeting. But even if there were 10 or 20 people, I feel like, although when Ole kind of mentioned that part, I thought it was one of the most powerful things they could do with Q Vote, is that they could have, a voting or a metric within the Zoom itself. But I am I just highly critical? Is there a use for a rainbow metric or any kind of metric within Zoom that would actually benefit the participants as opposed to benefiting the data, right? Like as opposed like I would have to have a benefit directly. I was like, use it for a PTA meeting.
Don't think so, because I don't think it'll actually work to be on a linear scale. Like I think there's definitely value to kinds of reactions into, you know, possibly like almost doing polls or, you know, silent sort of background reactions, so you can go back later and see, you know, how were people paying attention? Did they like it? What were they thinking of? Whatever it is, I just don't see, you know, from like a 0 to 10 scale, if we're talking about numbers instead of colors, I don't see a value in that in meetings personally.
I guess maybe if I can strongman it, like in a Rebel Wisdom call or something, right, where they have a ton of people and they have that like one speaker who's more of an expert, and then they can have people being like, ooh, like let's say it's Brett Weinstein and he's talking about ivermectin and he doesn't, you know what I mean? Someone says something they don't agree with and they're saying, oh no, I agree that it's false. Well, if, you know, later on you can go and ask that person why did you think it was false? Just because it kicked you in the gut because you want it to be false, or like you actually have some scientific evidence. So the true false thing, as well as the angry, sad, happy, which is, I don't think that great. I think it's very faulty because it's, although if I'm angry, I'm going to know. And in that, it's like sometimes, let's say it is Brett talking about that. And I'm angry because they got their YouTube account taken away or something, right? That's not being angry what he's saying. And that's kind of the issue. Am I angry about what's being said, or I'm angry that it's being said, right? Like, it's hard to kind of distinguish, but be able to have, you know, I don't know, if you're giving a TED talk and you're like practicing, figuring out how people feel, but you still have to get the audience there. And
like I think you do end up with almost a linear, or even sort of like, you know, a yes, no, or for or against, but there has to be another layer in between, like for or against what? What am I saying yes or no to? And it, you know, it might even be something as simple as like, if Brett is talking about this, and he's talking about this, do you agree with, you know, like, does he appear to be properly citing a scientific study? Or, you know, like you're actually saying yes or no to a specific question, not just how do you feel, yes or no. What? I get, because I guess so almost a mix between like the scale and something like Reddit, right? Where you're actually saying like, I like or don't like this thing. Where even then you definitely fall into the same issue where it's like, well, if I'm upvoting it, really you're just saying that you think that it needs more attention. Is effectively what you're saying on Reddit. But which maybe that's it. It's just a yes or no. Do I think that this warrants more attention?
So back in, I don't know if it's the 80s or 90s, they'd put a group of people in a room for user testing, and they'd give them an old dial, and they would just dial up and down their mood as they were like watching a sitcom. So they get a feel for what sections were funnier, which sections were boring, which is kind of like early algorithm building.
Right. I do wonder what kind of like precursor conversation they were given, right? Like, what was it? Just, we're going to give you no warning, just this dial here for bad, there for good, go? Or is it, hey, you're going to be watching a comedy, so we're trying to figure out, you know, do you find this funny? Or is it just a pure, here's a dial, good, bad, have fun?
I mean, I think it has value, because there's been times it's like, yeah, if I have a 30-minute presentation in front of 30 people or 60 people, it'd be nice to know if there's a boring part or a part. But I mean, to your point, it's right. If not explained well, and even if it's explained well, people will do it wrong. It's kind of hard to tell whether they're talking about the content or their emotion about the content.
Right, or there's something in the speaker's teeth, or whatever it is.
But at least you know, here's a section that was going on, and maybe we need to dig a little further.
Right.
So I think it does provide value. There's one fairly large company that they do dot voting. What's it called? It's not dot voting. Anyway, so during a whole meeting, they have a matrix of like everyone in the meeting, and on like several different scales, they can rate each person, and they do it in every meeting, during the meeting and shortly after.
Okay. And that's
including
like,
the
were they
CEO.
insightful? Did they participate? Like,
Yeah, did they provide value or something like that? So it's
interesting.
kind of on that, except for more people. So
Right.
I think they did it for several years. So I don't think it was a complete
Well,
bust. I think they found some
that
value in
sounds
it.
like there's a bunch of different metrics that you're recording on, which I think I'm all for recording and quantifying things. I just think you always need to sort of explain, okay, what are you asking me to quantify? Because if you just say, look at this piece of content and say yes or no, to what? But if you're saying, hey, these 4 people, how much did they participate in the meeting from a scale of 0 to 10? Well, Jim didn't talk the entire time, 0. Steve wouldn't shut up, 8. It makes it a bit more, as opposed to like, I didn't necessarily like what Steve had to say, so I may have rated that low. But if you're asking about participation, yeah, that person definitely participated.
And you have to balance between the level of effort on the person and the simplicity of the tool versus the value you're getting. So, I mean, at least it would be a good way to identify, this person really wasn't happy during majority of the meeting, or just, after this point, their numbers just dropped right off. If you're rating it multiple times,
yeah,
which would be interesting.
Yeah,
then
I think to your point, it might be useful, kind of like NPS, right? Where like it doesn't matter why they rated you less than 6. If somebody gave you less than 6, follow up with them because they might be unhappy for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I think it might be useful for something like that. Probably end up with a lot of false positives though.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if you have like a panel of people, and every time someone gets up and they're speaking, all the numbers go down. Then it's like, well, are people? Then you have to ask: are people disagreeing with them, or are people bored or annoyed?
Exactly. I think if people could almost suggest a tag, and then people were upvoting and downvoting the tags, so you're like, oh, I think that this part of the speech, inspires it. It's funny, and then people can say yes or no, and you're like, so people thought that this part of the speech was or was not funny, or was not insightful, or a lot of people thought that they were lying in this part. I think that could definitely have value, but that sort of adding that layer of, I think, judging things like either good or bad, or yes, I think this is happening or not, has value, but only within sort of a very specific context. For things like NPS, it can be useful where you just know low numbers mean they might be unhappy. That it can be useful for, but that's kind of a generic catch-all. Well, they're paying us, and we want them to keep paying us. So if they seem unhappy, we're going to reach out.
I think one of the things, like when you have a number scale and it's 0 to 10, and if it's below 6, it's you might as well die. Like this isn't really capturing the essence of like I feel like a Facebook happy sad vomit emoji would actually be better for like, oh well, I'm bored, meh. Like that would actually, because then I don't have to think, is anger a positive or negative emotion? Is it red or is it purple? It's like trying to put it on a scale, and yet you're still having all of the issues with the number scale, which is if I don't rate my Uber driver a 5-star, they're going to get fired. So therefore, I almost have to rate them unless they threw me into the desert and left me there. And so it's like when Bentley was talking about the sitcoms, I was like, great, then we can have a meh, like a laugh soundtrack, a meh soundtrack, and an angry soundtrack behind it, where you're like, boo, get off the stage, and like that would only be helpful if you like asked them for that, right? Like I'm doing my TED talk. Tell me when it's boring. Tell me when it's confusing. Would be a big one.
And there are emojis for all that. There's a yawning emoji.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I totally think emojis are more useful, because then you can't do a scale where you're like, this is very or little, but at least you start to get some categorization, and you still end up with that. Okay, was this person angry at the topic? Were they angry the person was talking about it? Are they angry at the speaker? Still more useful than just like, I feel bad about this. Okay, how?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think there was some petition on one social media site where they wanted the downvote back. I can't remember if it's Reddit or...
Is that Instagram? Didn't they take away...
Well, several companies have. I just don't know which one I saw, whether it's Reddit or Hacker News or something. But yeah, there was a petition to bring the downvote back because they thought it was better signal of quality or way of getting.
Maybe it was Reddit. I think you're right. I think they briefly took it away, and people were like, "No, you kind of need to say like, no, I don't think this is important."
I think is all of those metrics, which is also like, although I agree that having a universal metric is really helpful, like yours being the universal metric, it's not how it goes. Like you can't go and be like, well, no, you have to use mine. It's like, okay, well, what do we need in a universal metric? How do we make it so that people feel they can be honest and still be able to trust the data?
Right.
Which is like not the conversation they ever want to have because it's perfect in a unicorn. It's like,
yeah. Which I, to your point about Uber, and I find the exact same thing on Upwork, I find myself not trusting the ratings because I'm like, yeah, but I always give people 5 stars because, right, you're like, that's a person. They didn't do terrible. It was, right, just there's all this stuff. But it's like the fact that they force you to give the feedback and like, yeah, it gets weird. Where I think
you want it on different metrics. You want it on speed and accuracy and all this stuff. And it's like, if you're looking for somebody who's the best at accuracy, you might not care about speed and vice versa versus like, they're a 5-star. No, they're not. Nobody is.
Right. I guess we're kind of back to that kind of generic rating system that we were talking about 6 months ago that I'm trying to build, to where for everything you can set up what your, what criteria you want to rate and then rate it. Would be nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, so I think I found the post that I saw, and it is actually Facebook. They want to bring Facebook because I guess it did have a downvote back early right in the process.
They had upvote, downvote, and now I mean, you can still give it a downvote, right? You still can give it a thumbs down, or does it just have thumbs up and angry and sad?
Yeah, I think it's just thumbs up, like for like, and it is like, are likes just reactions now? They actually have separate likes?
It's the default reaction. So if you don't hover, if you don't stay over it, and you just click it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see. So it's one. It's yeah. I got you.
Also, I feel like there should be a way on social media to give your angry comment or your like and downvote it, right? Like less people need to see this because it's false, because like every time, like on TikTok and everything else, when you comment, you're going to bring it up in the algorithm, and so more people are going to see it. And yet that's like it's the biggest irony. Like I said, I've been on TikTok for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. And the 2 things I've had that have gone the most viral, one was about the Canadian healthcare system. So people are in an argument constantly. So I'm like, I didn't really do this to create division, but sure, it's creating division. And the other one was me showing some Canadian currency that has gone out of date because I happen to have some, and I came across one that was talking about loonies and toonies in Canada. So I was showing $1 and $2 bills. And I forgot to mention one of the $5 bills because I had like the most recent, and there's one that I don't have that's currently in circulation, so I don't have it, and then the ones that are older. And anyway, like the first few comments were someone being like, oh, you forgot the hockey one. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right, I did. I'm not the kind of person who could like purposefully do that, but purposefully doing that, right? Purposely giving wrong information thing that people are going to like critique on is going to bring that algorithm up. And it's like, that's the world we live in now. The more you can make people angry, the more you can like misinform people, right? There's that like person who went viral being like, my friend's an idiot because she says that bats are mammals and bats aren't mammals. And it's like the amount of people that then are like, of course they're mammals, right? That would never go viral if somebody was saying the opposite. Like,
yeah, or even just asking, are bats mammals? You might get one answer, but to say like bats aren't mammals, yeah, you'll absolutely get a flood of responses. And that's kind of what's annoying about the way that all the companies work is they just thrive on attention, and they know that the bad kind of attention is probably one of the best from their end.
Yeah, and even if they don't know that, their AI will figure it out for them.
Yeah, exactly. Because they just tell it to maximize for views and clicks, and
and it'll use
every angry.
Yeah, every vice. Well, it just knows that when I do this, more people do it.
Right.
Anger is just a unfortunate side effect of maximizing profit.
Exactly.
Also, one of the other things that I feel needs to be solved with social media in general, besides just the angry makes it go up, is that there are certain demographics that constantly get bullied, and they're the demographics that actually need to have a community, and yet putting themselves out there to get a community puts them in bullying. Like anything that's like, you know, if you're queer, if you have a disability, it's like if you're fat, if you're, you know what I mean? There's so much stuff that it's like to be able to find a platform where you can share your story and find your community without putting yourself on blast just by existing, right? And it's like then all the people are like, well, you put yourself on social media, you should expect this. It's like, well, how do you find your community without having all of this like negativity? Because the negativity brings it up in the algorithm, and so the more you do that, the more you're going to be able to find your people, but you're also going to find your bullies and your trolls. Like, how do you have a social media platform that allows for open expression and doesn't allow for trolls? Like, actually people who are trying to be divisive and trying to be mean and trying to, like, people calling for genocide on children, right? Like the child shouldn't have been born, like, constantly. And it's like, why are these? And then unfortunately on TikTok, those people get taken down for bullying. The people who shouldn't, the people who are like just exist, bring in the trolls, and they get their accounts taken away for bullying, even though they did nothing at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is taking away the anonymity. If you want to participate in that public conversation, great, but you're doing it as you. So if you do something shitty, we know who it was. And it's not to say that you're banned, but like, all right, well, it turns out that you'd like to join, you know, LGBT groups and be shitty. You can't join those groups now. And no, you can't just go and create a new account because this was based on who you are. So you get one account.
I think a lot of them, like LinkedIn and Facebook, you can create an account, not follow anybody, and then join specific groups that are fairly safe spaces. So I think you don't have to put yourself out there because you could basically hide your account except for those groups. So I think it kind of works in that space. Twitter has been trying to get me to follow a hashtag, and it's like, I don't really want to let anyone who decides to put a hashtag and then a word like tech into my feed, because there's no quality control except for your algorithm.
It just adds it to your feed if it has. Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Sorry. I see. Right. Your feed.
It's following topics, which is pretty much hashes. For my reading feed, yeah, not my.
Okay.
What people see.
I was thinking, yeah, like it was posting for you. I was like, that's insane. Yeah. But okay, I got you. It's just the.
Yeah, and I just think that's the dumbest feature. Because I can look at those anytime I want. Why would I want it rolling in? I've actually been thinking about doing it because it would be nice, but then I need to make a list of all the people I really want to follow and then default to the list. But there's no way in Twitter on the mobile app, like on the website, although I could use my mobile, you can create a shortcut to your list, and so that's the first thing that pops up. I guess I could use, it's not like Twitter's a huge, like you really need the app. If you're using their website, it's a simple enough app. The mobile website should be sufficient. So maybe I'll do that.
It's like the one place I feel like we do need a 0 to 10 scale. I want to be able to know, like, the 10 people are my friends, and I want to see every post that they post. And I, would like them to see mine too, but they only if we're both 10s would that be the case. And then there's people who you're just following so they can get a follow, and I really never want to see their content. And, celebrities are somewhere in between where I'm like, I get that they're going to be up on so like an 8, a 7, or an 8 or something along those lines.
Right.
But anyway, to be able to say, like, because usually like most of them have a starred position, but then the more people you have in that, right, there's only kind of like off and on, right, to hit the bell on YouTube for that kind of thing. And it's like,
I mean, I still feel like having it being voted up for topics, right? Because there's people that I went to high school with where they'll post about something going on in Alberta. I might be interested. So I'm like, yeah, I'll follow Alberta as a topic. But then like a bunch of them went into being mechanics. So they post on, stuff about cars and transmissions. I'm like, I don't give a shit about that. I don't know what they're talking about. So I wouldn't follow that. So I would sort of want to be able to say, if anybody, that I'm friends with is talking about Alberta or, certain topics, yeah, I'm interested in seeing that, but not if it's these topics. So it
right, but you want the filter to be both by topic and by person.
Right.
But they're making us do it either by topic and see everyone, or by person and see everything. Right. So this brought me back. I was thinking the other day I need to bring my project up, and this comes to crowdfunding open source software, but I was thinking about calling it My Algo. So, which I don't know if it sounds like either a disease or a pharmaceutical. But my algorithm. So, and basically it just takes everything, including email, and lets you write and share and have a marketplace is the wrong word, a library, an open library that anyone can post algorithms and you can use any algorithm and sort and filter your stuff. I think that would be useful. I don't know how many people would spend the time to set it up and use it. It's a bit of a big ask.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jubilee, if that just sounds completely too executive functioning.
If I had to do something, yes, but I just had to sign up for it. I mean, I think I've said before that if I could have one news feed, if I could have one news feed that's mine and I control, like Adriel said, who I like, what I'm following and, you know, the topic and the person, but it's my news feed. So it's coming from TikTok, it's coming from Twitter, it's coming from Facebook. And therefore I can upvote or downvote things that I want to see more of and see less of and create less or more division in my life. That would be worth it to me. And to like, that's kind of the thing you would need 1 million people on. Everyone needs to put in $10. You have 10 million people to create it. And then Twitter's competing for my news feed, which is a completely different algorithm. They better get on board with topic and person or they're going to lose their space.
Well, the idea is though that it would be reading your Twitter feed and then it would do the filtering on your computer.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if you could have sort of like the library on Zapier, right? Where you're like, hey, I have Gmail. Here's some other algorithms. You know, here's the popular ones that people are using. And then like for Twitter, here's the ones, and for Facebook, and for each one, so like here's the most popular ones and what they do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like, that's what I'm thinking. And maybe even not, you know, and you could subscribe to the ones you like or pull them down. So like, you know, you could say, I want to block Trump from everything. So I'll drag that one in. And then, you know, I want to see, you know, just different things you want to see or things you don't want to see. You could just drag them in to your feed, and then you could customize and say, okay, this person, if they have this word or this topic, and then, you know, you could say, oh, I want AI, like Jubilee was saying, I want to be able to upvote and downvote or rank things, and then let the AI figure out why I'm doing it. Or if I don't like AIs at all, I can get in and put in my own keywords and put in people's names and stuff. So and then you could share those, and you could write an AI and share the AI, stuff like that. I mean, that's a tool I'd really like to do, and I'd like to have it myself because it's I'm sick and tired of having to follow people, and I like most of what they do, but I have to decide, am I going to have to shut them off because I got a couple of topics that just trigger me, or I don't really care about, and it's just filling up my feed. Like some people I follow, that English isn't their first language. So they'll go for a couple days where I'm getting post after post after post in Russian. And I'm like, this is just kind of like, it's worse than ads because I can't even read it. And it's not, they're not doing anything wrong. It's just, I can't control what I see.
Yeah, no, I find the same thing. Whereas like a game will have, you know, English servers and like Spanish servers and stuff. You join an English server and then like somehow get paired to people that only speaking Spanish. You're like, didn't you have a system to solve this? Why is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, these are people I know in real life. They just Yeah.
Yeah,
they just also want to talk to their Russian friends every once in a while in their native tongue. And I shouldn't be offended by that.
Yeah.
But it bothers me.
Yeah, and I don't like a lot of the posts on Facebook where like they're obviously regional, and you're like, what area is this for, right? Like in Canada, if I have family in Ontario and they're posting about a lost dog, I do not need to see that in BC.
Yeah, like, you think they're AI
run 4 time zones.
But the AI knows that people look at dogs, so because there's a picture of a dog in it, it's going to show it to everybody.
Yeah, and just any of those, right? Like a missing person thing or any of those, like it really should. Certain posts, you're like, hey, if you're posting about, you know, a garage sale or a missing dog or a missing person, well, here's where it happened. You know, show it to the area. But if, you know, somebody is 500 miles away, probably don't need to show.
We should mention to the social media group. I could post it I'll post this video in their LinkedIn thing and just say, hey, at the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes of the episode, we talked about social media. They might find it interesting.
All right. Yeah. Timestamp it. They don't need to see us ramble for the first 45.
Yeah.
All right.
But I got to head out. Yep.
Okay. All right.